Check, check, check. All right, do we have access to these files? Again, you don't have to follow along step by step if you want. I am recording this so you can look back at it. This method that we look at now, this is how we're getting video image sequences into Unreal. It's important in Unreal that your files are image sequences and not video. You can bring MP4s into Unreal Engine, but we don't want to do that. We need to have frame by frame image sequences. So I have an image sequence right here, frame by frame, PNG files on transparency. It's already been keyed out, so we don't have to do that right now. We'll look at that next week. And I have my Unreal Engine project. So let me just make a new folder so this is clean. All right, first things first, we don't just drag all the PNGs into Unreal Engine. What we do is we have to create these other files that reference those files on our hard drive. Remember we talked the very first week that we used Unreal Engine, how Unreal converts things into .usf files. We need to maintain these image sequence files for our videos somewhere on our hard drive. If we move them, we're going to have to reconnect that in Unreal, just like you would in any video program. So we're not going to import because we're not importing anything. We're going to create a file by going to Add in the content browser, Add Media. And this is a couple-step process here. It's a little convoluted, but bear with me. Add Media, Image Media Source. And like I've mentioned before in the past, as I zoom in and I zoom out, all the menus snap back, so I have to redo everything. But Image Media Source. Media source for EXR image sequences. EXR files are great. Some of you told me that you've used them before. They are much bigger in file size, but seemingly faster too, because they're not compressed files, like a JPEG and a PNG is. We will use EXR files in the future, but not today. Everything we do today, even with PNGs, is the same workflow as with EXR stuff. All right, so add media, image media source. I usually call this IMS underscore Shanti or whatever it is, IMS for image media source. And just a friendly reminder that anytime you create a file or import something in Unreal Engine in the content browser, it gets this little asterisk next to it, right? Right there. That means it's not saved. So if I crashed or just exited from the program without saving, I'd have to do this all over again. I'm going to click Save All, save, that disappears. Okay, let's double click that file, IMS, and it's a black window. Just like you may have done in Blender before, now we need to set the path for the image sequence, the sequence path. So if we click the little dots next to the window, it will open up Explorer, and we can browse to wherever those files are. I'm sure you've worked with image sequences before. There's 232 files here. We only need to select the first one and click Open. You could also set the frame rate if you wanted to in the advanced settings if you know it. If you don't know it, then you could just leave that. You can click Save. Save over here, the little floppy disk. The moment of truth to make sure that it worked, up top, click the Open button. And if it plays, I love you guys' enthusiasm. Great. If it plays, then congratulations. You successfully know how to browse for files. Baby steps. Now you might notice that it looks kind of crappy right now. That's because in this view part here, it doesn't show like true transparency. We haven't actually made a material of it yet, so don't be concerned. Also, the buffering down here, like everything turning green, that's nice. It means it's stored the video to memory, so it's playing back at full speed. You know, like the green bar in After Effects or Premiere. I'm going to go ahead and set this to 30 frames a second. And close this window down. Okay, that's step one. Now we need to make a couple more things. We need to go back to the Add button, go back to Media, and go to Media Player. When you click Media Player, it's going to pop up a window that says, hey, do you want to also create a media texture? Click the little checkbox, say OK. And I'm going to name this MP for Media Player, Shanti. And question? Oh, did you maybe click the window that said, do you want to import all these files? Is there like a little pop-up in the bottom right? No? I don't see all of them. You're going to get saved now. So sometimes it's better to just not ask questions. Just click save again. It seems it's working out. Good. Okay, so the media player. You need to also create a media texture. If you didn't check the box. So go back to Add, Media texture. Yeah. When you create a media player, it prompts you to create the texture too. It's just a nice, saves you a step. And I'm going to rename the media texture to MT. Proper naming conventions. Don't really need Shanti video on there, but that's fine. So now I have these three files. Oh, I gotta save. I have these three files. So the image media source is the location on disk of where it is. The media player is the mechanism that plays things in Unreal Engine, plays videos in Unreal Engine. And the media texture is an actual texture file, just like any texture file in Unreal Engine. We need to also create a material from this texture. There's a number of different ways to create materials in Unreal Engine, but because we're creating it from this texture, we can just right-click on it and go up top and go to Create Material. And I'll just call this M_Shanti. Like that. And save. You might notice that there's nothing in the texture and there's nothing in the material. That's all right. The reason for that is because by default, these textures are not playing because that would be very intense on the computer computationally. So we haven't created the mechanism yet for them to play. Yes, we clicked the open button, but then it played and we shut that down. That's not a mechanism for triggering it to play. We could open up the media player, which has the little TV icon. And down here in the list, we could double click this and save it. And we can see it playing here in the media player, but still it's not playing in the material or the texture. If we open these up side by side, it might play. Not that this is really that helpful for us, but I'm just showing you. So now it's because I clicked play, it's playing in the texture. But still, that's not helpful for us when we want to render. We're not going to go in here and click play really fast and then go back and click render. That doesn't make sense, right? So we haven't created the mechanism to play this yet. You know, if you were making a game, well, one, you probably wouldn't be bringing in a bunch of PNG files. But if you had a video texture to play in your game, Character walks up to screen, hits the E button on keyboard, video plays. There would be some sort of code that would trigger this media player to play. That would be the mechanism to play that. We're making videos in here, so we're going to just put this on a timeline, which is what we're going to do in a second. But before we do that, we need to go into our material and check out what we have here. I also like to just drag the material window onto the top tab here for organization. I'll rotate this around. Everybody always looks weird when they're wrapped around a sphere. Hey, kitty. Meow. Unreal Engine 101 stuff here. There's icons in the top right of the viewport. You can wrap it around other primitive shapes. You can also wrap it around custom shape too that you have selected in the content browser. For our purposes, the sphere is fine. A lot of times I'll put it just on a plane too, because it is going to go on a plane in our world. So a couple things. One, it's not playing. We already talked about that. That's fine for right now. But it's also not on transparency. And also the hair looks very crappy. We need to make some changes in this material. I don't think we've done anything with materials in this class yet, besides maybe just open this up and close it down. First thing, you have the option of taking this RGB, which is the color information, and dragging this to emissive if you would like this to be an unlit texture. If you would like this texture to not be affected by light, but to have it actually just be illuminated like it is in the original video footage and not be affected by the sun, you could drag this to emissive. Otherwise, the sun is affecting the texture. So I drag the sun around. Right? See, now it's bright because the sunlight is pointed at it. Now it's in shadow. Do you want that to happen or not? Usually I make my video textures emissive and unlit because I want the colors to actually be what the video footage is. Some of this is previs because, again, we're going to be doing our final compositing back in a compositing program, not in Unreal. This is just for previs purposes, but still you probably want it to look pretty good. And until we learn how to do that, we will be doing compositing in Unreal. We haven't gotten to that step yet. So you can keep it on base color if you want it to be lit by the lights in your world. Otherwise, you can drag it to emissive color. Pro tip for disconnecting wires, Unreal Engine 101 stuff. If you Alt click, or I think it's Option click, it will disconnect wires. You can also hold down Control and reposition wires, whatever floats your boat. So we made this emissive, so it is emissive, but we haven't made it unlit yet. So if I click on the big node here, the main node, the golden one, and if I go over here and I say shading model unlit in the dropdown, then it makes it unlit. It doesn't matter where I point the sun. It doesn't affect it at all. Good question. Sometimes I just do things and I desperately wait for somebody to ask. Hold down the L key on your keyboard for light, and then hold down left click, and you can orbit it around. Ooh, ooh. Pro tip while we're on lighting, we might as well just go back to the main window here. The default sky atmosphere in Unreal Engine, if you didn't delete this, if you click on the little sky atmosphere icon, and I always forget what it is. Is it Alt L? No. H? Control L? Oh, it's Control L. While clicking on the UI icon, you hold down Control and L, you can then change the sun position and it changes the sky stuff. Control and then L. That's if you keep the sky atmosphere system. If you put your own like HDRI sky sphere in there, then you just delete this, you know. So thanks for asking. That led to another cool thing. I'm full of cool things. You just got to ask. Okay, so we made it unlit, but it's still not translucent. Also, you may notice that it doesn't, minus the alpha problem right now, which we haven't gotten to, it also doesn't ignore that it's a different frame. It also seems to be colored differently. Well, that makes sense because it's brought into a gaming engine. Unreal has its own sort of tone mapper built into it. You can turn the tone mapping off, and it will make your video texture look exactly like it did in this case in the PNG. But it usually makes the rest of your world look crappy. This is one of the problems that is inherent with Unreal Engine because it's a gaming engine, it's not a compositing tool. These are the things that we have to deal with. In the future, I'll show you how to turn off the tone mapper, but for right now, let's just live with it looking slightly different. Okay, transparency. So click on the big node again, and over where we changed it to unlit, you can change the blend mode to masked or translucent. Let's check that out. So if I do masked, you see that opacity mask becomes available. Now, you all probably know this, that there's translucency mask and there's opacity mask. If I connect the opacity mask to the alpha, to the A, it does remove it from the background, but it does so in a very chunky sort of way. Opacity masks are more for, you know, opaque pixels. It doesn't really work well with pixels that are semi-translucent, like the fibers of the cat's hair. Okay? So opacity mask computationally is very cheap if you want to, say, cut out like a yellow Mario coin on a backdrop or something like that, because it doesn't have any translucent pixels. It's just a hard shape, a hard edge to it. But in this case, we have hair, so opacity mask not going to work. I want to change this not to masked, but to translucent. Looks like garbage still because the wire is not connected to the right place. I need to connect this to opacity. So opacity mask, drag that to opacity, and now look at it, hooray. Go ahead and click save. And we are done with the material editor. Next step, putting it on something. Almost always this means putting it on a plane. This footage is square. It is 1024 by 1024. So putting it on a flat plane is not going to give me any sort of distortion. This is something to keep in mind. If you bring in 16:9 video footage, right, and you didn't crop it to square in your video program when you rendered out the image sequence, and then you take your 16:9 video footage and you put it on a square plane, it's going to be distorted, right? It's going to be smushed. You could make the plane 16:9 aspect ratio and that would solve the problem. But just be aware that that is a possibility. You could change the UVs on the square, but that's even more work. But yeah, sure. 3 ways to do it. For next week's assignment, you don't have to do that. You're just being asked to shoot something and have the raw footage. But the next step of this is to key out that footage that you shoot and then do what we're doing now, which is to bring it into Unreal. Okay? So baby steps. So I'm going to make a plane. Easiest way to make a plane is to go up to the Place Actors tab up here, go down to Shapes, and click Quinn. That's why I love this class. I've never had a student say, oh, but we could change the UVs. UVs, what are those? That's great. All right, so I have a plane here. Maybe I'll just scale it up a little bit, and then I'll just drag and drop my material on there, the green one. Maybe I'll rotate it. Remember the transformation widget in Unreal, use the W, E, and R keys, just like Maya in most 3D programs. You can also use the spacebar to cycle between them. You can also use the icons up in the top. Rotation, translation, scale. I'm going to tip that over. Maybe move it slightly away from mocap dude here, who I think we had animated at some point. And congratulations, we got it in the world. But we don't have a mechanism for it to play yet. We have to put it on the timeline, which is the next step. I bet if you went to the media player and played it, it would play in the world. Hooray. But we don't want to do that. We want to have it play on the timeline. Okay, last week we used sequencer. I think I might have the sequence still open. If you have a sequence still, you could use that one. You know, we made some lights dim. We rotated some cubes. I think we had some animations play. If you don't have a sequence still, you can just create an add of new level sequence. That's fine, whichever one. Just the top one, add level sequence. I think I might use my existing one because there was some fun stuff going on. Oh yeah, look at all that fun stuff. Amazing. Which camera am I at here? Oh wow, she's like sneaking up on him all of a sudden. This is so dumb. This is a technical exercise. I'm not trying. This is not my creative best, I'll say. Might be thesis worthy, but not my best. What do we got to do? We have to add the media track. We have to add the media to sequencer, which means we need to create a media track. So your sequencer might be empty. That's okay. It's pretty much the same thing. So let's go to add in sequencer and then go to media track. Add a new media track that can play media sources. Sounds good. And you will get this little thing right here. Media. Just solo this. All right, media track, but nothing's in it. So, like all tracks in Unreal Engine, we need to click the plus next to the track that we want to modify. So click the plus and go to media source, and you should see the image media source file that we created for this. Click it, and it should add it to the timeline. It's going to add it to wherever you have scrubbed on the timeline, so you might need to drag it back to the beginning if you're doing the beginning, or just put it wherever you want. You might also notice that nothing's still happening. Oh, well, there's a lot happening, but nothing's happening with Miley and the cat. So there's something else that we have to do. We need to right-click on the media track on the actual film strip, on the footage. Right-click on the track, on the footage, and go to Properties, and we need to assign it a media texture. So you probably will only have a couple in here. Some of them are default ones. There's only one that should be super visible. Right-click, Properties, Media Texture, right there. And as soon as you click it, it should probably update to the proper frame. So now it should play when we scrub. And in this case, my footage is shorter than my timeline. So it just stops when it gets to the end of the footage. If I drag the footage longer, it's just going to loop. You can see the white lines on the film strip. Those are the loop points. Obviously it depends on what you're doing, if looping makes sense. You might also notice I'm zoomed in on this, so it looks like garbage, but you might also notice that there is some smearing, anti-aliasing going on. You can't really see when you get close to it, but if you look at it from a distance, especially on your monitor, not so much on the projector, you can see just a little bit of smearing there happening. That smearing is a temporal anti-aliasing. We can turn that off if it bothers you, but again, we are doing our final compositing not in Unreal Engine, so it really doesn't matter for the video texture. And actually, we want that sort of anti-aliasing on for our world. When we render out our foreground and background plates, we're going to want that anti-aliasing on, even if the video looks crappy. If you did want to turn it off, unfortunately, it's not that deep of a compositing program. So it's kind of like turn it off, have the video look good, but I know the background's going to look more crappy at this point, and then turn it back on when I go do my render. But really, you don't even need to turn it on because you can actually make render settings. Not like Blender or Maya. There's no sort of like compositing hierarchy. If the problem is just not playing, you have it on in the world. You just need to, did you right click on the construct? Go to properties. You're okay. Just right click on the film strip. Uh-oh. Oh, mouse problem. Oh. That is a bigger problem. Yes. Always remember to save. Friendly public service announcement. Remember to save, especially when we're working with video textures. Things can get a little bit buggy and crash oriented. Remember to save. What was I saying about the anti-aliasing? So if you want to turn it off, you can go up top to edit project settings. And if you just in the search type in anti, you can see that currently the anti-aliasing method is set to TSR, temporal super resolution, which is like the latest and greatest, but it doesn't make video textures look good. So you could turn it off, which is to make everything look like garbage, or you could put FXAA on. FXAA will make the video look fine and your world look okay too. But it's not going to give you like pretty motion blur, but that's all right. We'll turn that on later. This is just for now. When we render, when we render, we'll turn on all sorts of like spatial temporal samples and crank it up. In what regard? You mean on the computer right now? I would say so, yeah. I mean, it's less intense anti-aliasing, so yeah, I would say so. Certainly if you turn it off completely. But I think these computers can handle this fine. Good question. The monkeys got hurt. All right, so we have it playing. And in this case, I still have my video animation from last week. Sneak attack. Wow, this is really groundbreaking work here. You could also animate the plane so she really does sneak up on him. But remember, it's just 2D, right? So you're not going to get any parallax. Ah! Ah! I do have the raw footage, yeah. Oh, let him run? Oh, okay. Yeah, let's shift that around. You're getting into this one. I like it. Yeah, get rid of the idle sequence. Just start running, dude. I feel like he needs to start running right there, though. So maybe we drag this back out and have him idle. Doesn't know. Gotta go! Wow, that's terrible. But still kind of fun. This is what we'll be doing going forward with your footage. And we'll just build up from here. But this is kind of the bare bones of starting to do virtual production with video in Unreal. Which things specifically? Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, definitely. It's recorded right now. But I mean, if you want to see like an official explanation, if we just go back in here and hover over these things, image media source. This is a file that points to the directory of the files. Okay. Media player, add media player. This is a shorter description, but this media player asset plays movies and other media sources. This is the mechanism this is the play button or it's not the play button, but it is the player. Is it? Yeah. We didn't put any of this stuff in this. Right. It's behind the scenes. Yeah. 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 And the only thing that we put in the scene was the material. Yeah, we dragged the material onto the plane. One more cool thing that I could show you in 5 minutes, if I can get this to work. I get myself in trouble maybe because I decide willy-nilly to do these things. But oops. What about this texture? Or you know what? Let's just make a material from scratch. So I'm going to right click, and this is going to be in the video recording. We can talk about this again, but this is just like a check this out 4-minute thing. So right click, new material, material test. All right. So in the material graph here, I'm not using any textures. I'm just going to get a vector parameter. And I'm going to call this color. And right now it's black. And I'm going to plug this into my base color. And I'm going to save this. So this is a parameter, which means that it can be dynamic. So I could change these colors dynamically, either with code in a game or on the timeline. So I created that material. I'm going to drag this material onto, say, this cube. Okay? Now I'm going to put this cube. Oh, I guess it's a skeletal mesh apparently. That's fine. It already is in my sequencer. It has animation in it from Maya apparently. I'm going to click the plus here. Go to skeletal mesh component. And then I'm going to go to the material, which is the Lambert, apparently. And then here in the Lambert, if I click the plus, I see what I happen to call color, because this is addressing the material that I created with the variable for color. Should have called it something else so you actually thought I created it. Color is kind of a generic word, right? But color. What? No, I didn't. Now I could set keyframes to change the color of the material dynamically. Oops, not 2. Let's change this to 0. Let's change the green to 1. So now the animation is actually a material property that's being driven by the timeline. In a game scenario, this would be something that you would do with code. You know, player walks onto button, turn the button from red to green, right? We're making films, so we don't do this with code. We do this with keyframes. Very similar to, you know, how we did the lights last week. Pretty neat. We could also like multiply brightness. We could change like the UV tiling of things dynamically. We could change pretty much anything that we could plug into the material graph. We could change. Any of these settings that you see over here in the details panel that have the keyframe icon next to them on the right. Hold on, let me show all. All of these things over here can be driven with keyframes. I don't know, controlling allow cloth on actors, turning that on and off. Does it accept shadows? Does it cast shadows? On and off. Most of this stuff you would never want to keyframe, but you can in Unreal Live. We won't get much more into materials unless there's a hunger for that from you all, but just thought that might be interesting to share. Questions about things that we've covered today? Remember your assignment. Book the studio, shoot green screen video. You know, you could all book it together too if you wanted to, or in bigger groups. That's good work. Sure, that sounds great. Sounds great. Creative is up to you, but think about maybe the first thing that I would do is browse Fab and get a feeling for an asset that you might like. And then you might think about, okay, now I need to shoot something for that. Then you have an idea of what your character should do that you're filming, right? Otherwise, or they're just going to stand on green screen and go like this. So, I don't know. Or we have an amazing talent today on set. Maybe we could all hire them